This is what I learned from my lesson culture class in a nutshell. The first skill I learned was how to improve my video making skills and create an informative video. Before this class, I had uploaded one other video on YouTube. It was me and some friends messing around and we wanted to put it on the internet. So I took the loyalty of throwing a piece of music behind it and getting it on there for the world to see. It wasn't very good, it was really choppy, it was just something fun that we did. This video was a couple years ago though, and like I said, it wasn't very good. I tried other times to upload videos and just simply failed. This assignment urged me to give it another try though, because the times I had tried, I either got my video deleted for some reason or it was just taking too long and I gave up. When I tried though this time, it uploaded smoothly and it was great. But it also gave me an opportunity to experience more with Movie Maker, which is just a Windows-powered software that's really nice and smooth for throwing pictures and words and songs and voice or whatever you want to put onto basically a cooler looking slideshow, which is also how I'm making this presentation. I got an opportunity to try and do new things that I hadn't done before on Movie Maker because of this assignment. So yeah, I learned new tools, and I learned how to upload on YouTube smoothly, and that it does happen smoothly. So yeah, my visual for this is actually my video. It's not the whole thing because it was 5 minutes long and it took up half my presentation time, but just as an example of how simple it was and how it turned out. So here it is. The second thing I learned from this class was that old folks were teens once too. I knew old folks were teens. I knew my grandparents went to high school and had boyfriends and girlfriends, but I didn't realize how similar they were to us. For the interview assignments in this class, we had to interview anywhere from age 90 to middle school at some point in the class. We actually had to do all those ages. And in doing so, I learned that not only were my grandparents young ones, but they also experienced things similar to what I experienced. Like I said, they dated, they went to high school, they had to face bullies just like we do now. They had to figure out what to do in their free time without getting into trouble, or do it so that they didn't get caught at least. But I know at least when I interviewed my grandma, I learned she went to youth group of some sort in her age, and that was really cool. So yeah, it was just fun and an interesting way to learn more about old people, for lack of better words, and to get to know them better, and to learn what they were like in earlier generations at my age. I really didn't have a very good visual for this. Like, I could have done some teens in the olden days, or picture my grandparents. But I really like this picture when I looked up old people having fun. I realized that was a risky search to do, but it obviously didn't turn out that bad. These adults, well, older than adults even, just have so much youth left in them, and I love that in this picture, and so that's why I picked it. Another thing I learned from this class is that youth ministry is older than I thought. Before this, I hadn't really put much thought into youth ministry, like when it started, but like if I had to put a date on it of when I thought it was, I mean, I would have thought it was a lot earlier. I was under the impression that it was a newer development, like maybe in the last 2 generations. But it turns out it can be dated back to as early as the 18th century, when Robert Rake started the first Sunday school, which is definitely more than 2 centuries. I think what gave me this impression was my mom had always talked about how she didn't have an opportunity to go to youth group because it didn't exist in her time. But I guess she just was looking in the wrong place, because clearly it did. It's true that this ministry is directed directly to youth and has grown and developed a lot since then. But it did exist back then. It's a lot more, like I said, developed now, but it did exist back in the day. My visual for this, I mean, again, I don't really have anything. This is just the logo for my youth group. There's so many youth groups these days. There's youth groups that are based in churches, but there's also like Young Life and other ones that are based to hit students who maybe don't have that faith base and don't want to try maybe a church group. So it's a great opportunity. But for me, I did attend a youth group that was based in our church. The fourth thing I learned was that the teenage mind is a lot more fragile than I realized. I think we all fall victims to assuming teens are more mature and developmentally than they really are. When I watched Inside the Teenage Mind in class, the reality was brought to my attention though that teenagers have a lot more developing to do. They're in that state where they're in between adolescence and adulthood, and they have to figure out what they're doing in their life. And they have to figure out where they're going, and they have to figure out just like their brain's doing a lot. There's a comment about how like the teenage brain has a lot similar with the infant brain. And also another example was how teenagers can't read emotions correctly. They think adults are always mad at them, and that's part of their brain developing. They just assume adults are always mad or sad or more emotional than they think. They're more dramatizing it than they need to be, just because that's how they work. And so, yeah, so their mind is really fragile. And I don't think I realized that for this class. I mean, I assumed that I needed to step it up all the time, and I was being immature when I was not acting like an adult. But in reality, I wasn't there yet mentally. None of us were. This visual is actually from Inside the Teenage Brain. It's a picture that they have if you go straight to their website of just like kind of like sample of what the film's about, and I thought it summed it up pretty well. You can see like the teenage brain is a work in progress, like I said, and how much can science tell you? And from Z's to A's, and can good night's sleep help students get good grades, and just little things about how the student brain, the teenage brain is developing and working. The last thing I learned from this class was how to write a paper or do an assignment the night before like a boss. Um, there were more times than one when I didn't realize I had an assignment for this class until the night before. This was mainly because I was not very organized and just didn't have my stuff together. And so I'd find out that night by throwing my assignment notebook open or someone telling me in the cab or something, hey, how are you doing on the assignment? Or something like that. And I'd be like, oh no, I have an assignment. So then this left me with only a few hours to put an assignment together. By the third or fourth assignment, though, I started getting good at it just because I practiced. I don't advise doing this, but because of how many times I kept finding myself in this situation, I think I got pretty good myself. My visual for this one is, as you can see, just a student overwhelmed with work. I just stole it from the internet. It's not me. It's not I know. But I feel like a lot of times that's how I felt when I started that late. Like I had all that work to do, when in reality it was maybe half of one of those bottom books, or maybe the size of one of the other books. It wasn't as much as I thought, but it was just because I waited till last minute that seemed so overwhelming. And I know I could have surpassed that stress by starting sooner. Throughout this course, I learned a lot more. I also learned much more valuable information in this class. Tons of history, tons of just how the teenagers work and how their brains are developing, like I said, and just like so much stuff. But I realized a lot of people who have to give a presentation today would be talking about that, so I thought I'd put it all in a nutshell. The other stuff I learned, because these were valuable skills and bits of information I had learned in this class that I feel like I'll use more in my daily life than just a bunch of facts.